Susio, my man, what's going on?
What's up, bro?
Nothing much. How's your night going?
Just getting back from work. All right. Got to fire up Thursday night game.
Oh yeah, game's about to start, huh?
What's that?
I said the game's about to start, huh?
Yeah.
About 30 minutes, right?
8:15. Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. What's going on, Daniel? How's your night going?
On Daniel.
All right. Well, we're starting to get some people showing up. You guys are obviously first come, so first served. Um, Interesting day today, right? Pretty much no reaction to CPI in the first half of the day, and then seemingly out of nowhere, we got some pretty intense selling. So we'll definitely try to cover that later in the session when we've got a little bit more people in here. But off the bat, is there anything you guys want to check out? Again, we don't have to look just at charts. You guys can ask general questions about psychology, setups, indicators, earnings, anything of the sort. So whoever wants the first bite, go ahead and just shout it out.
Let's want to take a look at Exxon, man? They just had that pretty fucking monster purchase of Pioneer.
Exxon Mobil.
$60 million. They sold off really hard, but I feel like we're on the fucking edge of another, just huge energy squeeze. And like kind of almost like the same conditions in the same time of year as uh as the last one, with war going on that may fucking escalate and more directly impacts oil. And I think the market is about as short as energy as it's been since that last squeeze as well.
Yeah, I think energy is honestly a great hold for the next 5 to 10 years. Um, you're right. There's a lot of things kind of contributing to that, right? Our reserves have stopped, right? We cut off the releasing of the reserves. And then on top of that, we've got the war going on. So there's a lot of things contributing to a bullish bias towards oil. I think from a fundamental perspective, there's a lot of reasons to look for higher on oil. But I honestly think if you are just looking to kind of focus on oil, there are better names besides Chevron and Exxon. Like for example, I think like Oxy. Oxy's probably one of the better ones to focus on right now, in my opinion. I've been picking up some equity recently in this guy. Of course, right, this 55 area has been the best spot to pick it up for the past few years, but um, I think Oxy's got so much potential to just continue growing here. Um, is there a setup, or are you positioned on Exxon, or what's up?
No, I love nuts. I jumped on a bunch of it at 59 and gonna swing for November in the 59s at 62.50. Like, and then I let it go the day before the fucking war to go chase something else on Friday. But
Yeah,
no, I mean, just you got these conditions plus Exxon just having dropped 15% almost based
uh,
off that purchase. So it just seems like it may offer, at least in the short term, a better entry of any of the majors since it took the biggest hit.
yeah. Honestly, I don't think we're gonna see much lower here. I think this is probably the area that you like. I mean, just anywhere down to this 102 area. Hell, if you want to start buying some today or tomorrow, I think that's still probably a good price, bigger picture. Um, I would, if I just wanted to highlight it for you, really just, if you ideally anything here, anything from like 100, anything under 104, I would just start buying it all the way down into 100, and then, but I'd play with equity. I don't think options are necessarily the move you want to take unless you're playing 3 to 6 months out, right? If you did want to play options, I think you'd probably want to go like, you know, quarterly contracts, maybe January, if not at least,
I'm
April
not,
for
I'm
safety.
not seeing your screen, Wes.
Oh, I'm not even charting? Shit. My bad. Sorry about that. I turned on OBS to record, so when we post the charting session on YouTube, it'll be up and you'll see it, but I'm not actually showing it to you guys. All right, there we go. Should be up. Sorry about that. Cool. All right. Are you seeing it, Susio?
Yeah, I got you now.
Cool. All right. So yeah, I highlighted this zone. Basically, just anything under 104, I'd start buying. I still like it even now, to be honest. If you just wanted to get like a small starter position and be willing to add, I think that's great. Um, just based off of where we've respected all year and how the rest of oil's kind of acting, right? Like oil achieved these highs at the beginning of the year, and they've all been relatively flat, right? We can check across the board. Chevron's done the same thing, right? I mean, they even achieved these highs in 2020 or 2022, but 2023 they all pushed higher and they've relatively held flat. But Oxy is probably my favorite, to be honest. They also achieved these highs in 2022, have been flat since. But focusing on ExxonMobil, they've definitely remained a little bit stronger, made new highs in 2023, and then have sustained those prices. But this area, this 100 to 104 has been dip bought every time, and even now, I think like we were just talking about, there's a lot of reasons to point to oil being, and energy as a whole continuing to be, a positive bias over the next 5 to 10 years, in my opinion. And I think I'd be confident to saying you should be able to see 120 here easily over the next couple months.
Yeah, that's my thinking too. It's in that range. It's in that balance. So it's a phenomenal thing. I think around 100. I am looking at an option play just based on kind of the conditions of the broader energy sector, and with Exxon providing pretty significant dip entry. But they got those earnings coming up. So see what they have to say on the call about the acquisition.
Yeah.
They're talking 2 billion a year just in synergies.
Phew. It's good money, man. It's good money. Why don't I go, claim a stake in some random field and find oil, The government would be up my ass claiming it before I could, collect more of a gallon of it. Right. Yeah, I like it. I think it's a good theory. I mean, like I said, I've been picking up some more oil names as well. Mine primarily being Oxy. Um, I mean, XLE is always a decent pick if you're just trying to play it really safe and just kind of take advantage of the whole sector, right? XLE just being the energy name or the energy ETF. It's definitely got more of a respected top here at 93. I think that's super clean. And this thing as well kind of collects the strength of all of them, right? It's maintained a nice steady trend higher while also, if you want to really, really get technical here, bigger picture, we all know what this is forming, right? It's about as clean as it gets in terms of, a rising wedge. So I think energy is poised really well, and you're right to think higher here.
Extend that lower line all the way out. Let's try and get a rough timeline of when it would, if just it stayed on trend, would inch.
Well, I don't necessarily see these rising wedges form all the way up to these breaking points, but if it did stand out the entire time, it's looking around second half of 2024. It's looking about August, September 2024.
Yeah, no, they never hit all the way, but it's good to kind of frame like
It's going to make a move before then,
oh, yeah, of course, of course.
Anyways,
Yes.
no, I'm holding that off until a little bit later in the session. I think a couple more people are going to show up here. Um, so I don't want to jump into the general market outlook quite yet, but yeah, you want to check anything out, Big B?
Well, I got there's a 19 change
What shares?
spot.
Spy, got it.
Dividend around soon, and I seen some up here at 437 today. Is it 437?
Nice. So you're more trading it.
Yeah. I made about 1,200 on the deal. Uh, but I kept, I think, 5 shares because they're free from trading buy back and forth with shares.
Gotcha.
Let's just pull it up here real quick. 95 shares today at 437.15.
Very nice.
Made 11, 12.
Oh, you caught like the high a day then. Yeah, today. Pretty close, about 20 cents off.
Oh, with my luck.
Pretty killer.
Let's see. That's it.
Post something in Stock Talk for us. Okay. Let me see. What are we looking at?
Right there. I did 95 shares at 437.15.
Okay. Nice.
I bought them. Yeah, who's you were talking the other day? I bought them at
Around 420 area.
around October 4th, around 420.
Yeah, man. It looks like a killer trade.
Yeah, it was good. I didn't mind holding it at 420. But when the CPI numbers came out, I was like, well, if we're gonna go back down to 419, 420 area, I figured I'd sell it, take the money and then rebuy it again. But now I'm looking to hold some more Exxon shares, and who's bought 100 shares at $100 even. Give or take a couple of pennies.
Yeah.
I sold some at that new high, and I'm looking to add back in. So you're saying 104, 105?
104, 105? Or
Or
Exxon. Yeah. That's what we were saying. Is that general area, anything under 104, I'd start picking it up. I mean, I was telling Osucio that if you wanted to start a position, like let's say you wanted to pick up 100 shares, you can maybe start with like 20 to 25 here and then leave room for those dips if we continue lower here into this 104 area.
me and Hoops took 100 shares, 1,000 cents, and I sold at 118. Was it 118?
Beautiful. Beautiful trade.
We sold high, but I didn't sell them all. I'm still holding about 35 at an average price of $100. I'm looking to add them back up to 100.
Nice.
But I'm thinking, he told me 104.88. That's the number he gave me.
Yeah, that lines up really well. I like that spot as well. I have a feeling. I have a feeling if I go like this, and I solidify just this range, that's probably where our point of control is around. And it's a little bit higher than I thought, but that's right where the volume taper is, so that makes sense. That 104.80 area, you see how that's our volume taper on the bottom side? That that makes perfect sense. I see why he gave you that. I see why he gave you that level.
It's good for a few days.
Good.
Maybe I think a week ago, to buy 65 shares at 488. So if it gets down there, it'll be an auto buy.
I like it. I like it. Hell yeah, man. I think it's solid.
That's what I was looking at. I did pick up some of the ESPN shares. A little down on it now, but they did bounce. Was it today or yesterday? They bounced. It was yesterday, and I was green on it. I was like, damn it! I should have sold it. It's quiet lower.
Well, yeah. Do you guys want me to kind of got a lull here? If anyone has anything else, just shout it out. But there's a couple decent setups that I'm kind of looking at for tomorrow. If you guys wanted to go over those for day trading, day trade ideas, if anyone's interested. Yeah. So the fun one that I'm looking at is UNH, right? So this one's got a couple things going on. It reports earnings tomorrow morning. So the couple main things I wanted to point out over the last year, year and a half, right? This 450 or this 550 area has been the primary top, right? First big rejection, we made the all-time high, rejected it really hard, dropped over $100, chopped off about 20% of the value, quickly rebounded all the way back, same spot, struggled again, and we could not get through it over, end of last year, right? So 450 is definitely the line in the sand here. Um, but you can see we've created a pretty big volume taper here and a big liquidity gap between 420 and 450. They have defended that every time, and here we are, right? We have now broken the trend to the upside from all-time highs. We've cleared the most recent pivot, right? We've made higher high and a higher low. We're trending up. From here, the next primary target, I mean, you've got this pivot high here at 430, which is, it's something to keep an eye on. But we've spent all of this week, right? We spent all of this week in consolidation in anticipation for this earnings. So my theory is, if earnings is positive tomorrow, the first spot we're looking, look at the last time this thing reported, right? The last time this thing reported it was at the lows, right? It dipped in the 450. They sold it into the earnings report. We reported, and sure enough, this thing went from 445 to 485 in 2 days. Actually, in one day. The day of earnings, it hit 85. So it was a $40 move in a session. The last time it reported before that, right? You can see we fell all the way. The close before that was 25, and we fell all the way down to 08. So about an $18 day. Okay, and if we want to even do a little bit more than that, this time when it reported, not as much of a move, but still gave a very big day's range. It didn't actually close very high. They sold most of it back, but you can see it ran from 85 all the way up to about 510 for a $25 day. So this thing, the day after earnings, has a very nice trend of giving very large days, right? Whether it's, this thing could sure as hell reject, and I could be wrong, but we could see this thing all the way back at say 500 or so tomorrow, giving back $25. But what I'm thinking is, we're pointed in a positive direction. Sentiment is in the favor of longs right now. We're in the middle of a big, strong uptrend. They're holding the highs that we've made over the last month. If this thing gives a strong report, I think we've got a straight route back into this 550 area. And so tomorrow, before open, the earnings will be out, unfortunately, before market open, so we won't get to touch it. Most of the move will probably be made, and we may end up gapping as high as, 540 or something like that. But regardless, um, if news is positive, I fully expect us to take a shot at this 550. Of course, I could be wrong, and the numbers could be bad, and we don't like them and reject all the way back into 500 or whatever. But if they're positive, this is what I'm definitely keeping an eye on. And of course, it'll depend where we open. If we open as high as 550, I'm probably not going to be trying to play longs on it. We'll have to see how the morning action goes and vice versa. But, if we open up, just over 530 or whatever, say big money didn't give a big reaction to it, I think retail still will, because they've shown a trend of doing that, right? The past three earnings sessions, we've given $25 days, right? Like I said, this one was, $25. This one was $18, and this one was $40. Or intraday, it was from 60 to 85, $25. This thing averages about $23 to $22 in retail sessions the day after earnings. Okay. So I'm very interested in this one. I think this one for a lotto idea, I love that it's on Friday and we'll get some nice 0 DT contracts. The liquidity is, of course, very nice because it's leading into earnings, but I think this one could be a lot of fun. Look at the price of these contracts. Even the 550s are at $80. This could be a very cheap and fun lotto that ends up being pretty fun. So this is probably my favorite setup coming into tomorrow. It has nothing to do with market sentiment, right? If market's flat and choppy tomorrow, we can still play this thing up or down depending on, whatever the numbers are. So again, that's how I like to approach earnings. I've told you guys before in many charting sessions that I don't like to swing through earnings. It's a 50-50 bet that's not even 50-50. You could be right on the direction it goes, but if your contract selection is poor, you can still lose money. So, or if the expected move isn't hit, right? Those contracts, that IV crush in the morning is going to be brutal and you can still very easily lose. So, again, I like to sit through earnings, kind of see how retail reacts, and then make my my trade decisions after that. It always works out better. It's easy, right? Because you know how retail's feeling. You don't have to guess, and you don't have to overpay for contracts. So playing through earnings has always been dumb to me. I can't make sense out of it why people do it. It tends to be a typically a new trader type of idea, but yes, this is one that I'm very excited about. I think everything is in our favor here, and contracts look great. We've got a very defined target zone. My only hope, if the earnings are good, is that we don't open too high to where I shy away from it, right? Because like this, for example, right? I'm sure lots of people were buying this thing at 450 just because it was at 450, where we had bounced one, two, three, four times previously, right? And they caught this move. Well, I'm sure, guess how many of those people already probably took profits off the open because they were up 13 bucks. If I had seen that, I would have been a little bit hesitant to continue jumping in longs for fear of, well, it's already made a big move. So that's what I'm hoping. Tomorrow, if it opens around over 540, I'm going to be a little bit hesitant to jump in, right? Because contracts will still be heavily, fluctuated from or heavily inflated from IV, and our target is closer than what we're really aiming for, right? If this thing opens, just over 530, we're probably just going to look for any red candle off the open to try and grab in for a lotto play. Again, so I don't care if we're looking for a huge move because it's a lotto play, because it's extremely high risk, and because it's 0-day contracts, all have reduced sizing, right? So my typical sizing is like $3,000 on a safe contract, right? Something with time on it, playing a good risk to reward entry, all that. 3K max position sizing. On something like this, I wouldn't play more than $1,000, right? And so for you, based on your account size and your risk per position, take that into consideration if you see me alert this tomorrow morning, okay? All right. So yeah, this is my favorite setup coming into tomorrow. Again, it's one of my favorite setups, post earnings plays. You can always depend on increased volume, and sentiment is typically a lot easier to read, right? You don't have to make guesses. And speaking of, earnings season pretty much kicks off next week. Next week and the week after, we've got nothing but a lot of big market leading earnings, and it's going to be a lot of fun, right? That's typically when I kind of stray away from SPX and I start playing a lot more individual names. So stick around. The next couple weeks are going to be a lot of fun. Anyways, the next one I was looking at is Nvidia, right? We kind of saw the market kind of tapered a little bit today. Didn't really have that great of a session to close. We bought a little bit back, but we definitely saw that bigger picture sell pressure step in with the hot CPI reading, right? So the implications of today's CPI reading is it's the third CPI in a row to come in harder than the previous or higher than the previous, establishing a trend of CPI or inflation increasing, right? And so we were never able to crack under 3%. We never got even close to that 2% inflation goal. And unfortunately, that solidifies one of two things for us. Either A, we can expect another rate hike, which honestly I'm not expecting. I think there's one more on the board for us this year, which is what they mentioned in the previous meeting. So I don't want people to be surprised if we get one more rate hike, but also it's all but guaranteed that rates are going to be higher for longer, right? They're going to have to keep monetary policy restricted, okay? And eventually it's going to really start to hurt. And that's what's, we're going to have to see some weakness in the job sector. We're going to have to see some people get laid off. And, we're going to have to see spending habits curb for inflation to come down. Otherwise, if the job market stays strong and rates are currently poised as they are, guess what? Inflation is going to creep right back up on us. So they've got two options. They either need to get, a little bit more aggressive with the rate hikes and give us one or two more, or they need to really pray that, these rate hikes are affecting businesses and can drive our unemployment figures a little bit higher. Again, it's not what you want to see. I don't want anyone to lose their jobs, but you need you need people to start saving their money, right? Because if people continue to keep buying, right, companies have no incentive to cut prices or stop raising prices. Okay, so you need to see some pressure amongst retailers, um, everything, everything from gas station. People need to stop, going on vacation. If we see everything start to taper down, right? If we see, I don't know, I'm gonna pull some numbers out of my ass, but let's say, every month, people in the country spend $100 at the grocery store or on gas or whatever. If we don't see that average come down, inflation is going to persist. Okay. So the best way to do that and the most efficient reading throughout history has been an increase in unemployment, because when people are unemployed and they're not making money, they tend to save their money and their discretionary spending goes down, right? There are some things that people have to buy every month, such as gas, such as groceries, et cetera, rent, right? Home prices, all that fun stuff. But discretionary spending needs to see a reduction, or inflation is going to continue to creep back up on us, right? So again, the most efficient way that that has happened in the past is through unemployment rising, right? I don't need to circle back around, but those are the two options here, right? Today's CPI data confirming the trend in increasing inflation has spelled a very predictable future for us. Either one or two more rate hikes are on the board, or it's all but guaranteed rates will be higher for longer. So that's the reaction that we saw today in futures. We saw the initial sell-off pre-market, which was the knee-jerk reaction to, an increased report or increase in data. But I think later in the day, everyone kind of grouped up and thought, oh well, shit, this is kind of what this spells out for the future, right? Um, Focusing more on Nvidia today, right? This thing's been on a massive trend higher back into those pivot highs. It has made, I don't know, what is that? 60 divided by 4 is, shoot, about 15. Yeah, this thing's done 15% in the last 3 weeks, heading back up. Um, it is not a small move by any means. And we finally filled the long-standing gap from breakdown from highs here at 470. Filled that gap today, and we're unable to sustain it thanks to market sentiment. Finally seeing its first bit of sell pressure. A lot of people thought this was a short, right? We made a engulfing sell-off day and filled that lower gap right here, and everyone thought, okay, that's a lower high. And then the market started bouncing, right? And Nasdaq picked right back up, and this thing had really no choice as a market leader to continue heading back up. So now we've seen a good bit of sell pressure, unable to close over that gap. And now, if market sentiment remains weak, this thing is at a great spot, risk to reward for shorts, in my opinion. I think if market sentiment remains weak and we can see VIX kind of pick back up and sustain the prices that it's currently ranging in between 16 and 20, right now we kind of set up a nice bottom on the VIX today, down at 16. We bounced the same spot that we've bounced over the last couple weeks. Um, it's logical to think that VIX can very easily revisit that 19 to 20 area over the next couple days. So if that's the case, and market does incur some more downwards pressure, I would fully expect that Nvidia can come back into this most recent volume shelf, fill this price gap at 457, and definitely visit 455. That's more of a day trade idea, looking very short term over the next couple of days. But I do think that Nvidia is at a very good risk to reward short spot here, looking for a trade to maybe span a couple of days. Again, I wouldn't go swinging for the stars and expect us all the way back into 420 anytime soon. That'd take a few days of time, even if we were panic selling. But I think this area, looking for about 458 to 455 over the next couple days, is very confident. And even on a name like Nvidia that moves a lot, if you can catch a move like that on short dated contracts, that's good money. If we're looking at same days, if you were to take these 470 contracts and we went to 455 tomorrow, the intrinsic value on those contracts is 1500, right? Even if you got in today, these contracts are in the money. Not saying that makes them safer. They're still zero DT. If Nasdaq heads higher or if Nvidia heads higher tomorrow over 470, these contracts can still very easily expire worthless. But these contracts, say you get in at 350, that'd be a 400% trade, right? These contracts would go from 350 to 1500. That's 400%, or no, 300%. Sorry. That'd be a 300% trade just for a $15 move, and this thing can very easily move $15 in a day. I think its ADR right now is about, 8, $9 each day. Here's a random sized candle. We got 51 all the way up to 62. That's $11. This one is 44 to 56. That's a $12 day. Here's a big one, 40 all the way to 57, $17 day, right? So $15 isn't out of the ordinary here. If market weakness persists into tomorrow, I think this is, you know, it's a decent chance. Again, it's on the list, but again, my primary focus for tomorrow is that UNH setup. I'm really looking forward to that earnings. Um, but again, wouldn't go swinging for the stars. It's more of just a day trade idea if we're kind of banking on market weakness persisting into tomorrow. There's a I kind of want to switch gears here. This is probably a good time to switch gears into the general market outlook. Again, today we got that CPI data. Wasn't the total. What's up? What's up? Susie.
Before you switch gears, I was hoping maybe you could take a quick look at SMCI because I always watch these together. And you're talking about, like large ATR. If you look at the last 3 days, it's been the smallest move in the last 3 days. It's been like $15.
Oh, yeah, this thing looks wild, dude.
Nvidia, it was a big rejection of that regaining of 300.
I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about this company. Is this a chip designer or a chip producer?
It is a supplier to.
Okay.
I don't know about that either. I've been trading price action on them for a month.
This one's interesting. It, it
Yeah.
it looks like it kind of escaped its balance here. It gave you a nice setup. I mean, this setup, yeah, I could have shit, if I had seen this, we'd be all over this day. This breakout was clean. I kind of want to throw on, let me get my volume up here. Oh, I just got to cut the time frame. There we go. Right. So you can see clearly, right, we were in a pretty tight balance here with your taper being around, what was that? 84, 85 area, right? I'll just mark it off as a zone. Let's just call it even right about there. Yeah, so this was really clean. You could see over the last couple of days they built really nice value at the top of the range, and market was in the middle of a massive green day. What was this, Tuesday? Yeah, this was Tuesday. What was market doing Tuesday? Fucking buying, that's what it was doing. This was a great breakout. This was a clean setup as well. Unfortunately, it looks like things got the best of it today, and if you were looking for a spot to risk on for longs short term, again, I kind of want to switch over to general market again because what I was going to allude to is that today's action, I'm not necessarily thinking that, hey, VIX is going to go straight back to 20 and we're just going to go right back to selling. It's certainly possible, but that's not the confident bet here. um, I'd say there's just as good of a chance that we have maybe just started a balance on ES, and it's very likely that, buyers look to defend and we can head right back up tomorrow. As much as I'd hate it, it's just as likely, So, um, if that's the case, I think your best spot is, looking for, I want to mark it right around here. I think this 280 to about, shit, that's a huge range now that I'm realizing it. But shit, that's the nature of this stock. You said it, the ADR is massive. But I was gonna say this general area is probably where I'd feel comfortable risking longs, right? Just a retest of that balance. Um, I think it would look good. Today kind of throws me off a little bit. They engulfed the entire past 2 days of action and closed pretty poor, right? When market was buying back into the end of the day, this thing felt none of that. Um, so that definitely puts me a little on edge. But just from a purely technical perspective, if you were looking to try and long this thing, just a retest of the balance is probably what would feel the most confident. Um, Again, I don't really know the personality of this stock. I don't watch it. I've only looked at it when you and I talk about it. Um,
Now and then, it's like a mover. I mean, personally,
how is the option volume on it?
longing it.
Jesus, dude.
Long.
God. It's good. This looks tradable. This looks like something I would trade, honestly. Yeah.
I don't think I like 100. I think I've been about like 80% on the clean trades on it, man. But you got to have a strong stomach because
It moves.
it's
It
hurting.
moves. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. When I looked at these contracts, I was fully expecting to see like some strikes over here just having like zeros. I was expecting this thing to be, relatively option illiquid.
Dude, it's been a paradise, and I think it's just now starting to get eyes from an option standpoint as more people kind of start looking at it along with Nvidia as the Nvidia days have tightened up a bit lately. It's been smaller ATRs are still big, right? It's still a big mover, but they've been smaller, and I think that this one has started getting a little bit more of that action. It's never going to be
Yeah, I'll throw this. Let me add this real quick onto my. This is my. I call it my favorites watch list. When I focus on individual names, this is just. These are the stocks over here that I typically I've traded them a lot. I know their personality. I'm comfortable with their options and all that. So I'm gonna add this over here, and it is now a part of what I will look for on a daily basis. So I'll start checking this thing out on a daily.
yeah, start tracking the price action a little bit because I think it's one that you would really enjoy trading. Me, I'm nothing but short on it, but it makes huge up moves too. I just look for the right short opportunities and then take a couple days and scale in. But yeah, it's fun and it's fun on the weeklies. So
I was gonna say now that I know the options are plenty liquid, it's definitely on my radar. Today would it trade fucking $25? Pretty close. Yeah, the intrinsic moves really nicely here.
really nice. Yeah, it was wild. I mean, I was on a 300 from 220. I got out at five something, but that shit went to like nine.
Hell yeah. Yeah, like I said though, if you are looking to, I think the you know most confident trade theory that I'd kind of look for is I don't know if you'd be looking for highs off this bounce, but if you are looking for a short, maybe couple day long position, I think a dip into this area would probably be confident to try risking longs and maybe looking for a pop back into that 300 area at the least. I think that'd be solid. Is there something bigger picture you were looking to do with it?
Sure, but it's funny.
Gotcha. So you're looking to So you're looking for this thing to break back into this balance.
Eventually, that's just real. I was talking about a line LGN with that same setup. That one came way fast.
Yeah, yeah. That one really did give it up quick. Shit, and it's coming lower now too. It's
It's breaking my fucking.
this thing's giving up hard. It's tough. It's tough.
Walmart too. Walmart did the move I was looking for too. I got none of
Oh yeah. All right. So we got a good amount of people in here. Oh, Mo, good to see you. Good to see you. Some new people in here as well. Just me and STL618. Nice of you guys to stop in. Shout out to you guys. Again, just want to let you guys know this is these sessions are discussions, not lectures. So if you guys have any input or you guys want to have anything looked at or any general questions, again, if you want to ask about indicators, psychology, trade theses, play reviews, whatever you guys want, just let me know and I'll do the best I can to help you out. Um, but I kind of wanted to switch gears now that we've got a good amount of people in here. I wanted to go over kind of what I'm expecting over the next couple days, right? So today, like we said, that CPI that hot CPI kind of got a late effect, right? We didn't see that real selling step in until about midway through the day, and it definitely took back some of the last couple days progress. However, right, if we are focused on ES here, this 436 area has been very respected over the last couple months. It was an initial dip spot, and we've bounced it twice since. We tried to defend it on the way down, retested it before heading lower, and today, of course, the dip under is where buyers ended up defending. That being said, right, there are still buyers present. We're in the middle of a trend higher, and again, this CPI, going forward, it's pretty difficult to tell how today's action will result over the next couple days. So I was thinking that if VIX were able to commit to a stronger reversal, then this selling could have very easily changed trends for us. bigger picture, this is now the second lower high after a lower low, just focused on the trend itself. We're still heading lower, I would imagine. Um, that being said, we've filled that gap that was a result of the contract roll. Um, we also got a chance to accumulate off the major 4,300 level. Again, 4,300 has been important all of the last 3 years, right? It's been a very, very respected inflection point, right? Resistance under it and support above it, right? So we got a chance to accumulate off of 4,300 and we got a pretty nice squeeze. I was saying these days that when we were bottoming out, I the way I kind of described it was SPY felt like a beach ball underwater. It was something was holding it down, but it very clearly wanted to pop back up, right? So we ended up getting that pop, and it was a pretty nasty short squeeze over the last few days. A lot of shorts recovering, and now we've kind of hit that spot where we hit a little bit of sell pressure thanks to some fundamental catalysts, and now we're kind of in that decision making mode again, right? And so I think after that defense that showed up at the end of the day, and especially where we did defend, there's a good chance that we've done nothing more but enter a new balance, right? There's a good chance that SPY tries to buy a lot of this back tomorrow, and really we won't have a confident sense of, where to risk against until we start to visit these pivot highs again. If we come crashing down tomorrow and close under yesterday's lows, that would probably look a little bit more bearish. That'd feel a lot more confident than that this CPI report has kind of shifted sentiment, right, in the general markets. Otherwise, I wouldn't feel comfortable going into tomorrow gung ho looking for shorts. It feels like we've just entered a balance. So again, as much as a bear as I am, as much as I think this market should be at about, I don't know, 3,800. I think we should be a lot lower, frankly. But hey, can't argue with the charts. I do think that the next couple days should be a little bit choppy. And again, focusing on VIX, we've noticed a very, very, very confident trend all year long, and that being VIX Crush Fridays. Did you know that 85% of all Fridays this year have been green? Yeah, it's a weird stat. That's an anomaly in market history. 85% of Fridays this year have been green. And I don't know why. I can't explain it, but it's a trend that continues and is very confident. I call them VIX Crush Fridays or Volume Crush Fridays. Typically, the VIX likes to break down and, IV kind of depletes into the weekend. That being said, again, it's not a fundamental reason to be long. It's not even a very good technical reason to be long. It's just a stat, right? 85% of Fridays this year have been green. So, um, that in conjunction with the technicals that we just reviewed, I think tomorrow it's a good chance that we've kind of established a balance with today's action. Okay, so again, I would not be coming into tomorrow gung ho looking for a continued sell off. Again, it's possible, but that's not really what I'm expecting. I'm expecting tomorrow to be kind of a slower buy day, probably even some chop, but I think we'll end up coming back into this 4,400 level, if in fact, maybe even a little bit higher. So today definitely gave a lot of discounts if you were looking to swing some calls for a couple days. I know Hoosier was grabbing some longs into the end of the day. If I'm not mistaken, I think Mo was even talking about grabbing some longs. You're here, Mo. You're welcome to speak on this if you'd like. You around, Mr. Mo? No, I don't think he's with us right now. But anyways, Mo is one of our respected analysts in here. I think he's got a crystal ball because he has managed to nail a lot of these recent market pivots. He pretty much sniped the bottom here over the last week, and he was right on top of these shorts for a long time. So he doesn't really post alerts as in entry and exits, but if you guys are interested in, getting more market insight, his channel is in the alerts as well, and he posts lots of great stuff. So definitely make sure to check out his channel, even though he's not sending entry exit alerts. We value his analysis a lot in here. But that being said, again, that's mostly what I'm expecting for tomorrow. So, um, as for the bigger picture, like I said, we did see a nice pivot today. It could end up being a pivot that we have not seen yet. Can you guys hear those dogs? Are those dogs barking in the background too loud? No, you guys can't hear him? All right, I'll leave it be. But bigger picture, right? I'm just going to highlight a couple things here, right? You've got pivot high, lower high, and potentially lower high, right? You've got two lower lows, right? The trend here, hate to say it, this is trending lower. And I feel like this could result in two different things, right? This could all just be a, some people, I've seen a lot of people on Twitter posting this as a cup and handle, right? You've got this big old cup, and then this is a handle, and eventually we're gonna break out higher. And I see other people saying that we're kind of just seeing the sell pressure kick in, and it's waiting for another sell off to lows, right? I have no clue what's gonna happen bigger picture, but all I know is bigger picture technicals, right? We are trending lower. So again, we'll continue to take it day by day. I'm not much of a, I'm not much of a swing trader myself, so I'll continue to take it day by day. But that is the general outlook. It's not super tricky. Nothing crazy has happened over the last few days to make me change how I'm thinking. But if you guys have any input, feel free to share it. Or if you guys have any general questions or another chart you guys want to look at, shout them out. And if you guys would like, I'm more than happy to post this chart for you. Just let me know. Oh, shoot, didn't see. Does this work? Does rate hike cause lower markets? Nada. Well, so that's more of a general, economics question. In theory, higher rates is supposed to make it's supposed to cause restrictive monetary policy is meant to slow business, right? It makes borrowing money harder. If the cost of borrowing is more expensive, then companies are less likely to engage in growth activities, right? If your company wants to build a new facility, but you have to pay, only 1% or 2% on the money that it would cost to build it, you're very likely to do it, right? Because it's cheap. It's essentially free money, right? If rates are under inflation, then you have a very good chance of easily coming out on top of that business expenditure. Whereas if rates are extremely high, right, and it's going to cost a lot of money to build that new facility, you're less likely to do it, right? So what it's meant to do is put restrictive or tight monetary policy on all businesses, right? Small and large. And the ultimate goal being it's supposed to slow down the economy. Okay. So, yes, in theory, what they're doing is, if you're expecting, if rates go up with the goal of slowing down the economy, you would expect businesses to what? Probably make less money or slow down their growth, right? So, in theory, yes, increased rates, high rates would drive poor sentiment in the markets. However, that's not really the trend that we've seen. Over the last couple years, we've seen a little bit of a front running behavior in the market. Okay. And what I mean by that is, I don't have exact dates for you, but I believe inflation, I don't even want to pull anything out of my ass here. I kind of want to get you guys solid numbers. But essentially, you know, during this whole period, right, rates were still rising, right? During this whole period, I don't think we actually started raising rates quite yet. I could be wrong, but essentially we were raising rates or just starting to here while inflation was peaking and we were selling off, right? Meanwhile, rates were still being risen here, but people knew in the future eventually, even though it hasn't happened yet, that we were going to stop and we were going to pivot, right? And so they were banking that okay, inflation is going to continue coming lower. Eventually we will stop hiking, and it's been more of a front running type event, right? So, when we were actually raising rates, um, when we started to raise rates, we were selling off. But as we continued to raise rates, people began buying it back with hopes that we would eventually stop. Either that or we got too low and people just valued the market at a discount and still wanted in. And as inflation started to taper down, despite rates remaining higher, hopes got higher, and we continued buying. Again, I'm a finance major. I've taken only a handful of econ classes, but again, in theory, that is what rate hikes are meant to do. But in practice and with the actual market, we've seen more of a front running event where the market is reacting to what's happening. You would almost think that the time frame was like 6 months behind. Do you get what I'm saying? Does that make sense, Hollywood Daniel? No, it doesn't.
Honestly, no.
You're not getting it, or it just doesn't make sense.
Like, I mean, everything's down. What I'm seeing, yeah. I mean, should everywhere, but it's not stopping anybody from doing it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's why we haven't gotten inflation back down to 2% yet. People are still spending like madmen. Employment is still very high. In fact, the jobs market is extremely strong right now. That last non-farm payroll that came out was insane. It beat expectations.
Yeah, get rid of not even people. Yeah, get rid of that easily. It's a pretend.
Yeah, that
That
yeah, and that
the company go bankrupt like Yella, right? Other companies. Bad.
well, that's more of a niche topic when we get into unions, but in theory, yes, restrictive monetary policy does force a lot of businesses to, struggle financially. And that is what contributes to the increase in unemployment, right? And so it's not necessarily the goal of the Fed to drive up inflation, but historically, when we have inflation, it doesn't become solved until the unemployment rate rises. And that's because people start to, when you're not working, you're more inclined to save money. Your discretionary spending goes down. And so companies have no other choice if they want to maintain their sales and continue to make money, they either have to level their prices or cut their prices, right? So that's the whole theory behind it. That's why rates going up is meant to, in theory, yes, raising rates would drive poor sentiment in the market and bring stocks down. But like I've said, everyone's been kind of front running. They've been basing their expectations like 6 months to a year out, right? That's what I'm getting at here is in practice, in theory, yes, but the market runs on expectations of the future. So right now, you know, um, the reason we're still kind of at the same price that we've remained in the last 4 or 5 months is because everyone's expecting the Fed to stop raising rates, you know?
Then the surprise guessing.
Well, like I said, with this most recent CPI report, it's confirmed one of two things. Either A, we've got one or two rate hikes on the board left to go, or it's all but guaranteed rates are going to remain higher for longer, right?
That's
Um,
for sure.
yes. Oh, it's a given. It's a given. I've been saying it for fucking months. But yeah, that's generally the goal of raising rates is to just create a restrictive, monetary environment to make it difficult on businesses to slow down the economy, right? And then we cut rates to stimulate the economy to get people to spend more money and businesses to continue growth endeavors and all that. But that was a good question. I'm sorry I got to it late. I just checked that voice chat channel.
Yeah, nobody's been typing, so I thought you weren't looking at it. Thanks.
You're good. So we are. Oh, Ace had a question. Why do you think it took the market till after lunch to sell off when the CPI report came pre-market? I feel like it was a bull trap by algos so they can sell off till a certain price point. I don't want to get into trying to think about what algos were doing or any of that, but I will say, if you look at the price action, it did kind of give us a little bit of a foretell. Looking at the balance from last night and just the general structure, right? We pivoted that first day around 418, right? Giving us that first indication that we didn't quite want to be this high. We spent all of overnight balancing up here. Initially, that knee-jerk reaction put us back under that point, right? Put us back under this level that was generally supported and where our value area was. And you can see in the price structure, every significant pop was getting shorted, right? And all the bounces were relatively weak. It took them a good amount of time, to get going. And once we ended up, committing to a reversal effort, they slowly got faded, right? We were defending slightly throughout the day, but once this final bounce or once this final failure kind of kicked in, a lot of people who were looking at longs were dealing with their contracts losing value. And on top of that, depending on where you entered throughout the day, you were now underwater. So you could call this a number of things. You could call it a continuation move after a failed bounce. You could call it a long squeeze, given that so many longs were having to cover, having entered, any point during out this area. Um, but yeah, I think generally, if you want to kind of dumb it down to a fundamental reason, it was really just a continuation move. Mo mentioned it early in the day. He said, markets don't move in straight lines, right? There's a lot of decision making, and there's a lot of decision making that goes on in between, right? A lot of people in the beginning of the day thought this was a great value, right? And then the same people right here probably thought that wasn't a great value anymore, right? So it's a lot of decision making. It's not always just super clean. And again, even though we bounce now, right? While I did just say I think there's a good chance that the market goes into balance over the next couple days, um, this could easily get shorted back into the pivot lows tomorrow. Again, we're gonna have to see the overnight action, and we're gonna have to kind of figure out that sentiment intraday. I see you type an ace. That's fair. It's evident from the sell at those supply zones. Yeah. Um, whatever you're looking at, you can look at price action. And that's how I typically tend to gauge decision making is through price action. But we were put under the value from overnight, and they failed to get back into that balance. And then, from there, the price action was sluggish. We weren't really, seeing those committed buyers step back in. The reversal was relatively weak, and all that with a negative catalyst, it was hard to think that we were going to end up buying it all back. So while of course I didn't expect this entire liquidation, sometimes it snowballs like that, right? Sometimes we get back to the low day so fast that people get scared and they close their positions, just adding fuel to the fire, right? That's why
50 points.
this was about 60. I think 60 or 65. We dropped from 15 down to 55. That's 60 points. Yeah. 60 points in about what? How many candles? 25-minute candles. So that's,
I mean, that thing was consolidating for a good 2 hours.
yeah. Yeah, it was definitely struggling, but again, it was a killer opportunity, and any of you guys who caught that short, congrats. It was very nice. Contracts that we were in. Um, yeah, I mean, shit. I know some of you guys took a loss on those spy swings that we took yesterday, but I can, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes they work out. Again, I didn't end up catching it. I took a stop on those trying to preserve capital, but again, I can't predict the future. I didn't expect us to give up 60 points in an hour. Um, so hindsight's 2020. Can't beat ourselves up over it. We live to trade another day as long as you're within your risk. But I'm very excited for tomorrow. I think I'm just hoping that volatility sticks around and we can catch some good trades and close the week on a high note. Again, I'm very, very excited for that UNH setup. I think that one's gonna be a lot of fun if we can get a solid report out of them. But does anyone have any last questions? We're just wrapping up here. Um, any last touches? Anyone got anything?
Yeah, Wax. Yeah, I don't want anybody to grab running or overreact to it because it's one of those things. Most of the time, it's fucking nothing. But so I mean, by now everyone should be aware of generally what the fuck's going on in Israel, but may not be aware that the overall leader of Hamas, who lives in Qatar, is Khalid Mashal, and he went in an interview yesterday talking about calling for the March of the Al-Aqsa Flood on Friday worldwide, calling on all Arabs and all Muslims to, if you're in the region, to go to the border um, and march towards the border, but worldwide to go out into the streets and join jihad or whatnot. That can be taken a lot of different ways, but it was taken strongly enough for France today to announce that they were outlawing, banning all pro-Palestinian protests, and for New York to start raising police presence and threats and everything. So there's enough chatter out there for there to be thoughts that Friday could be something. So just, I don't know, if you see a flash dump, don't be super fucking shocked. There may be some shit go down.
Hey,
And there may not.
I will not front run it, but if I see price action, I will not front run it. But if I see some price action pointing that direction, you know me, I will hop in shorts.
Yeah, it's just, you should know that possible catalyst is out there if you're in a continuation trade or something like that.
Oh yeah. Well, I appreciate the input, y'all. You guys have a. I'm gonna wrap it up here, but like I said, let's look to close the week on a high note. And I'm happy that all you guys showed up. Again, appreciate you guys, and it's very motivating to see that you guys are stepping in and taking advantage and getting those questions answered. I'm very satisfied with the turnout tonight. I think we had about 15 to 20 people in here, and again, that's just very, it's extremely motivating to keep doing these. And I'll try to get Hoosier Cobain to. I think Cobain actually wants to host a session on Sunday. So if you guys want to do a weekend session, that'll probably be available. And then I will see if I can get Hoosier to host a session early next week, probably Tuesday or Wednesday. But again, this session is recorded and it will be on our YouTube page in the next couple days. Again, I put in the server updates channel the link to our first couple videos on YouTube. It'd be very appreciated if you guys wanted to head over there and drop a subscription and watch the other charting sessions that we've done. Um, Again, I appreciate you guys for showing up, and I hope you guys have a great rest of the night. Can't wait to see everyone back in voice chat tomorrow. All right, I'm gonna head out of here, guys. You guys have a good night.